Hey, buddy.
Hi.
Haziq, finally I got you on this podcast. Oh man, it's been so long. It's
So
been so
long,
long.
really? It was just a few days ago.
It hasn't been that long, yeah, a few days, but I've been wanting to get you on this podcast for so long. Hi, my name is Bobby Rose, and to all you listeners out there, this is the Music Talks. And thank you so much for tuning in with us today. This is the first episode, and I was thinking, as our first episode, it would be great if I can just get somebody who's already in the industry, who does performances a lot as a vocalist.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Haziq Dane, and I'm supposedly the person in the industry that what we talked about.
Well, of course, you're not a person in the industry per
Yeah.
se, because as I've mentioned in the first episode, we are all still students, or at most recently graduated a year, 2 years, and so yeah. And yeah, it's strictly not meant for people who's been in the industry for like 20 years. Ha! So, Haziq, how you been?
I've been good, but being COVID and everything, trying to cope with studies has always been challenging, especially during these times whereby all our assessment are becoming more difficult. Especially everything is turning towards more recording, so it's a lot of adjusting. Me being the performance major, do I need to like introduce myself?
Actually, yeah, please do. Please tell us about yourself.
Okay. Okay, before that, I'm just going to introduce myself. My name is Haziq Muhyiddin. I am a musician. Currently, I'm a music student. Just finished my second year, going to third year at UPM, University Putra Malaysia. And I am a vocalist, classically trained, but I try to be diverse and flexible. So most of the time, the music that I do, my standard foundation studies would be classical music, romantic studies, art leaders, French songs, chansons, and all that, and some very little on Chinese art songs. But on a lot of occasions, I've done performances whereby it's more towards a commercial style of music and all that. So I'm very much trying to balance between the two because I like to try to keep myself open to the different kinds of platforms there is. Yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing.
So
That's very thorough. And you mentioned French songs, romantic songs, art songs, and so on. What are those? If you can clarify for the listeners. Me too, actually.
oh god, you're gonna make me sing right now. But like some I think the standard for usually if you're a vocalist, you start off like studying vocal formally. The pieces that are always there are the Italian songs because that's where so-called formal training of singing by Western, classically trained or Western formal way of vocal training come from the Italian school of singing, the bel canto way of singing. So I was taught in that way. So that means the repertoires are more. You start off with the Italian repertoire, so something like "Caro mio ben, credimi al men," something like that, and you have the Ombra Mai Fu and Seven Crudele and all that. So that's the typical pieces that you would usually receive in your first year or maybe like the first semester that if you were to begin your formal training of music. But moving on to that, the further development of your vocal training would include a lot of art songs by German leads. So you'll be listening to like you'll be introduced to some leads by Schubert, also maybe some by Strauss. There's plenty more as well. Wolf also is another one. And another thing is, at the same time, also I was introduced to a lot of French songs, composers by the Romantic composers. We are talking about maybe like late 19th century, early 20th century, something like that. So composers such as Fauré, Han, can't remember the other one, but yeah, something like that. And afterwards, once you've gone through the period of being introduced to art songs. That's what we call maybe somewhat like an intermediate training for the repertoires for singing. classical singing, and after that you'll be introduced to more operatic arias. So this is where we go into the what we call the genre. I don't know what's the French word for it lah. But really this is where it gets a bit more tough because of the technical demands that are behind it. Opera arias is known to be difficult, especially if you're singing the what we call the purest. No, I wouldn't say purest, but the a peak of it of what people understood as the bel canto singing style, which is composers during the period of I can't remember romantic composers, similar to the late 19th century, early 20th century. So composers like Donizetti, Bellini, and Rossini, or the three bel canto composers of operas, and as well as Verdi as well. So these are what we call as the pinnacle of like opera composition writing, because a lot of the Western classical operas that are still very much alive today, that are still very much performed today, are by these four composers. So yeah, and those kind of pieces are technically demand because of the range that we have to sing. It is you can easily go up into two octave and slightly more than that, which is already very difficult enough and for singers. And also you bear in mind when you sing operas, you're not just singing one song, you're singing a whole 3 hour opera. Given, yeah, of course you don't sing like 3 hours in a row. Nobody could ever do that. If somebody did, oh, please let me know. But for 3 hours, but it puts a lot of strain on your voice. That's why something that that professional opera singers, they cannot sing 3 days in a row. It's impossible actually. It is not in practice. If you have to have an opera run, it's maximum that you have the opening, second day, and then third day, and then after that you have a rest for the week, and then after that the show begins or something like that. So you just cannot sing 3 days, 3 nights in a row, because the strain that it puts on your vocal folds, on your
I gotta
instrument,
admit,
is
that's
just too heavy.
crazy. That's like you said,
So
it's
yeah,
3 days of performances, and I assume you just crash on the fourth day out of pure exhaustion. I don't know. It happens to me, like if it's a 2 day event,
yeah, but
3 day
the whole day
event.
just crash.
Has that happened to you, or
I mean, like, I wasn't in a professional opera production, because in Malaysia we only have one, sadly. We only have one opera production company, and that is KL City Opera. And I was part of their chorus for La Traviata by Verdi, the composer Verdi. And I was in that production as chorus member. So even just singing the chorus member part, it was already tiring enough, because one is the rehearsal hours were long durations. When you get up until the the opening night, the rehearsals before, it could go up until maybe, like, if you open on Thursday, you would have rehearsals from Sunday, and it's like 5 hours a day, easily. And you're just a chorus member. You're not even one of the soloists. You're not even one of the main act. Main role or something, and that's already very tiring enough. And the acting that goes behind it, that is what differentiates, I guess, slightly as a musician, that instrumentalists don't really have to deal with. They do have to deal with, because there is a form of the emotional expression that goes into instrumentalists. But as a vocalist, that is a big chunk of your what do you call that, as a performance, part of a skill that you have to pick up, lah, basically, as a vocalist, because we are singing from the body, basically. Our instrument is us, basically. And with voice, there is text that comes along with it, and with text there is a certain message that you have to deliver to your audiences. And with that, it helps to have really good acting skills to express your emotions genuinely to the audience, that they are able to understand. And the thing about opera is, you're so small on a stage. Sometimes, a lot of times, you have to. One, it's already bad enough. You already have to sing very loud without amplification. Okay, without microphones or nothing. Yeah, I mean we do have amplification a bit, and now it's a lot of opera houses, but it is still very minimal. Okay, you don't have the mic up until here. You have the mic up to the ceiling. Puts a lot of pressure of you to have to sing and then amplify to the end of the hall, and now you're added the burden of having to act out the whole aria, the whole piece, to try to make it convincing. And with opera, it's always about you have, because you're so small on the stage, some people from the back can't really see you, so you at times you have to overact, because if you underact, it's just gonna look very, you're not even moving that much. If I'm moving my hand like that, people are not gonna be able to capture that. It's so minimized. Yeah, if you're anguished, you're gonna be like in agony. You really have to like really show that you're in agony, so that the people at the back, oh, I think he's sad. I think he's sad. Yeah, 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 yeah. Because bear in mind, like in Malaysia, our halls are not as big as the halls that are maybe in the States or maybe in Europe. Yeah, maybe in Germany and all that. Our hall capacity is still okay. Istana Budaya is still quite big though. But there, like in the Met Opera, it could easily fit up until a few hundred, up until I'm not sure if it's 1,000, but I know it's a lot. Okay, and really, if you're at the Met, if you're at the back, if you're at the I don't know how many stalls up, literally the opera singers are like tiny, tiny, tiny ants. And somehow, those opera singers still manage to be able to sing up until the upper stalls. So that is something I'm very
That's insane. That's
fascinated about
really
and very
that's
mesmerized about
that's
opera
really
singing.
insightful to what you do. And oh my god, we've derailed so much.
We derailed some that I know, right? This is gonna happen very often to listeners. So take what you
Don't worry
can and
about it.
just
Don't
be
worry about
patient
it.
with us.
So I just
Yeah,
gotta
this is
ask.
how we
Thank you
work.
for all that.
So yeah.
I just have to ask you, how does all that training in your Italian, your operatic performances, all your conventional practices, your classical singing, how does all that translate into your other performances, other live performances, especially your Chinese performances and all, your Malay performances and all?
My Chinese performances. I guess for me, not just for Italian, I guess the training of another thing that again opera singers have to deal with is language, and we have to practice on diction, which instrumentalists don't have to do because they don't have to sing and then speak out the words. So we have to practice with a lot of diction, and you have to understand, in order to deliver a message well, you need to be able to say the words clearly enough that if your audience were to be Italian, if your audience were to be German, French, or even Chinese, or even Malay, you need to be able to convincingly say the words. If not, the message gets lost in the translation from you performing to them listening. And how does it help? I mean, like with opera singing in general, I feel that opera singing helped me technically because of the demand that goes behind it. So I have that foundation of like needing to have strong breathing support, and also strong of having range, develop my range, strong support, having stamina, vocal stamina, breath stamina, and all that. So that helped me to somewhat translate that in all of my singing, regardless of the language. But with singing Italian, French, and also German, practicing that, these three um, languages they came from the romantic, we know, from the romantic stream of languages. So their roots would come from Latin and also Gallican, you know. So with that in mind, like the it somehow developed into the very specific way of like the romantic language, how it developed and how the pronunciation has changed throughout history. So um you need to study up and learn the nuances of diction that the three languages have. So it develops your oral training on being able to detect fluctuations of diction. For example, a German is very much similar to English. They came from the same root actually. English, I forgot. I think it was something, I forgot what was it. But English has very much Germanic roots to it, because that's why if you see some of the words are very similar actually. If hand is in English, Han is in German. But the difference is the pronunciation of it. You say it as hand, Okay, if you're a bit British, it's Han, but if you're German, it's Hand. So it has a different vowel texture to it, a vowel sound to it. And as a vocalist, you start to pick up on these nuances of different vowels and also consonants. And in turn, you start develop a more sensitive hearing towards diction, and that's how much translates to all. And so that's German in English or something like that. German in English, they have a lot of consonants. K sound, ta, t is for that. You have that T sound. Yeah, you don't find that in a Mandarin at all. So that what happened is a lot of consonants there. Okay. Now with German is similar also. You have nicht, and dichte Liebe. It's a lot t, ta, b, t, and all that sound. It's a lot of consonants. It does combine with vowels, but it's still a lot of consonants that is being involved. So that's why the way you carry German has to be slightly different, because you have to pronounce more or emphasis more on the consonant. Now, translate that to Italian is a bit of the opposite. Italian is actually very similar to Malay. It has a lot of consonant and vowel. So we have the arrangement of consonant and also vowel. For example, if it was Malay, saya is S with the consonant A, vowel, right? And then so on. Saya, suka, so like, and so on. Okay. So in Italian, it's also very similar. We take the example of caro mio ben. Caro mio ben. That's already a combination of consonant and vowel. C-A-R-O. Very similar to Malay also. Caro mio ben. A consonant and two vowels subsequently. And then so on. It goes on very similar pattern towards Malay. So you will find that I wouldn't say this is just from an observation of what I've seen with singers, experience I've seen with singers in Malaysia. If you're a Malay, you would have an easier time to sing Italian, actually, because I find that somewhat it translates very well, actually, because it is so similar the way we carry the diction. We carry the way we carry the consonant and the combination of vowels. So that's what I've seen. Now, I'm not saying all Chinese singers, but what I've seen some Chinese singers, it's quite similar also, because Mandarin also is a combination of consonant and just vowel. All of their, it's pretty much all. They only have consonant and vowel, that's it. So it's also quite easy also for them to be able to sing Italian. But what I've noticed is somewhat, because Italian is a bit different, because sometimes they do have what we call as the double consonant in the middle. Example, oh mio babbino caro, that babbino, that has a double consonant, or the word mama. If you just say mama, that's already in some other words, right? That's already a different word itself. Mama has a double two consonant in the middle. For some Chinese singers, they need to be able to, they need some a bit more training to be able to deliver this double consonant well enough, because they are not familiar with that kind of pronunciation, that kind of diction, that double consonant. With Malay, I think, I'm not sure, but it's a bit easier, I guess, because there are some words that have something similar to a double consonant. Can't remember what word was it, but yeah. So that makes it a bit easier, okay. And then moving on from Italian, now we go into French. French is something that I find the most difficult for me, personally, because of the way they have nasal sound. For French, that's how you get to know, like, you know, the stereotype of a French person. Hello, what are you doing? It is a wonderful day today. That, in a way, that stereotype actually somewhat has truth to it. Yeah, it has truth to it, because the language itself has a lot of nasal sound that is not very apparent in Italian. It's not apparent in German, not in Malay, not in Mandarin. Slightly in Mandarin, but not as much though. So, for example, you say words such as au bord de l'eau. If a normal person, they just say au bord de l'eau, but you have to say it in a way, it's like au bord de l'eau. it has to go inside a bit, and there are certain nasal words. I can't remember. It has a lot sound to it. Je te ne- It has that sound, and at times, for me personally, I find it hard to be able to amplify that sound because I'm not used to amplifying in that position of sound. So that's where I have find difficulty with French and the language itself. And to be honest, the way the words are spelled out also is very difficult for us to be able to pronounce because you have words such as comma or something like that, but the spelling is Comment, something like that. It's like a whole long sentence by itself, and it's just like two syllables, that kind of thing. And then you have to like really think about that, and it's a bit different of having to look. So a lot of adjustment. Even until now, I'm still training my French. Okay, so after French, we come to Mandarin, right? Finally, and with Mandarin, I find difficulties at first because Mandarin has a different way of positioning the way you pronounce things. Malay is a bit more at the back. It's a bit. If you're a vocalist, you might understand me. If you're not, it's fine. But basically, with singing, there's different ways you can place the voice or you can place the sound within your instrument. So in Malay, it's very direct. It's a bit more middle. It's very similar to Italian. It's a bit middle. So nama saya, you can feel it. It's a bit more middle here. But with Mandarin, the way they pronounce things is a bit more upfront here. For example, 我要吃饭，你要吃哪里? That word of saying 我要吃 is already here. It's very much in front at the teeth. And also like 我要吃饭，你要吃哪里? It has that more sound. And the way you pronounce that, it has to be proper because if not, you're gonna have an accent. So usually some Malay people, when they start off speaking Mandarin, we say if the pronounce this is a bit similar, this is a bit more proper. I'm not saying that I'm fluent in Mandarin. I'm just saying that I can carry myself enough for the basics part. If you say 你好, 我的名字是 Haziq, okay? But if it was somebody new, they would say as 你好, 我的名字是 Haziq. They go into the Malay way, which is middle. They don't go front. Because if you have to break it out, right? 你好 is a bit, that's fine, okay? 我的名字. Chinese have this way of placing, they have a lot of diction of sound. They have a way of placing the tongue right behind the teeth and pushing air out in between the teeth. So you have the words of 字, 指, 字, 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 经, 错, 次, all that, which is not very much. Malay people, we don't have that as much. So that's where you will have that a lot of Chinese people needing to adjust to that and needing to be able to hear that out. Then only they can somehow translate the language better into Mandarin. So yeah. But with other than that, their combination of vowels, mama, papa, water, that is very much similar to Malay lah. So usually those kind of word Malay people don't have a problem, but it's just some of those sound. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for that whole breakdown. But what I meant was not in a musical way, maybe. What I meant more was like, how do you change between these scenes? Like do you did you start off in the Italian scene and then now you're just like fully English and Mandarin? Because I know you do change between I don't know, performance scenes, I would say.
Yeah.
And is that even an easy thing to do anyways?
Yeah, I know. Well, I think that came from my upbringing, I guess, with Mandarin, because I'm not, yeah, by any means, don't come to me for Mandarin advice at all. Do not. But I'm just saying that I grew up because I did my diploma in SEGI, and the environment there was majority of Chinese. Let's just be honest again. I was like maybe the only Malay there among like 40 people, 50 people, right? And slowly it was difficult for me lah. But I told myself, you know what, if you can't beat them, join them. And there's always an opportunity in any problem, regardless, really. There's always an opportunity in any problem. So I told myself, you know what, it's okay. This can be an opportunity for me to learn. And slowly I started to pick up the words, and I found that there's certain pattern to it, to the language, and then I started picking up cues on it. And the first few words was like 我你他 and all that 我要我不要 and it's all basic phrases. But from then on, then only I really starts to become a bit more serious of like studying Mandarin. And then from there, being involved in that environment, I got comfortable enough to be surrounded by Mandarin and Chinese, so it doesn't bother me as much. And also the culture that comes behind it. Don't get political here, okay? By all means, okay? But that's just how it is. When you live in a multiracial country, there are certain cultures or there are certain nuances of culture that you were to understand from a certain group. Yeah, Chinese, Malay, and also and everything, right? Actually, no, from diploma itself, so they knew I was a vocalist, and from then on, I was invited to a lot of events, singing Mandarin song, and I find it weird. Of all the people, wouldn't it be easier if they were to get a Chinese singer? Let's just be obvious, okay? Yeah, would it be easier to find a Chinese singer? But somehow I felt that um, they, I guess they like my way of singing, so I don't know. But I constantly get invitation to sing at Chinese events or something. So it might be like they just really enjoy my operatic style of singing. That might be it. That explains it. And somehow for me to be able to translate that into singing Chinese as well. That kind of maybe that kind of timbre of sound that I'm making, you know? So from there, so I was getting a lot of invitation to sing at Chinese events, singing Chinese song, and also and at some charity events I've done also they asked me to sing Italian song also as well because they want to showcase that. So I was like, okay, that's fine. But the moment I start singing Chinese song, I was like, whoa, gobsmack. I was like, wow, 那个马来人啊，会唱华语耶。
There you
Wow,
go.
it's like
That's
everybody's like,
Haziq
there you go.
speaking right there.
Yeah. So from there they were gobsmacked. So I was like, somehow I knew that at that time, I knew that this was a niche that I was able to do because not a lot of Malay singers are able to sing Mandarin. And from that on, I noticed that, oh, this is something that I can hold on to me as a specialty that I'm different, as a singer.
It's a
Because every
market
singer
that
we
you
have to
could
try to.
actually
Yeah,
get into.
exactly. It's a market that's something I get into because you don't see that a lot at all. Because in Malaysia, the only Malay Chinese singers is Sheila Hamzah. And I, just from a personal view and from what I've seen lah, I really don't know any other Malay singers who can sing Chinese. I really don't. And to top that off, I haven't seen a Malay opera singer that can sing Chinese. That's even more rare. Okay? Actually, there is one from UM. I met her at a competition, but that was a girl. A male one, that's even more rare. So that is something like, why? Like, to be honest, I'm a bit lonely lah. I don't have somebody to bounce off because I've been searching, like soul searching. This is a segue, by the way. I just paid my. So I've been searching for like a male Malay opera singer in Malaysia. I swear to you, within a radius of I don't know how many kilometers, I think I'm the only one. I really have not met another person. So I would love to meet if you're listening to this podcast by any chance, if you're opera singer, a tenor, baritone,
He
whatever
needs a
lah.
friend.
I need a friend. DM me, add me on Instagram. I'll be happily to be your friend right now. Okay. Now coming on to the help me in Mandarin, right? Yeah. So coming here into UPM, so it was a no-brainer that when we came into UPM and our department also, similar case also, majority are Chinese. But I guess UPM is a bit more balanced lah. So there we can see the Melayuness, we can see the rendangness in here. So that's fine. And so it wasn't a no-brainer. Even then, also, people start knowing that I could sing and I could sing Chinese songs as well, and they like my singing. And I also hear I get a lot of invitations. So I guess the most recent one before the MCO happened was the Malam Kongsi, which is the Chinese New Year cultural night. I get invited to that to sing. I've done that twice. I've sang that in experimental. I've sang that in the college scene as well. So yeah, and I keep thinking, why just me? But somehow I find that we have a lack of vocalists just in general, even in
Mm-hmm.
UPM. That um, I don't know whether it's my because I had formal training of singing, so
Yeah.
maybe of the ability of being able to carry the sound well enough, like that technical foundation
Aspects.
behind
Yeah.
it and aspect to it. So somehow a lot of people are like, oh, okay, this is very interesting or what. So I guess people want that kind of singing, because somehow I don't sing opera when I'm at the event. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely the technique I change it a bit more commercial, but somehow a lot of the foundation of technique of like breathing and to be able to carry melody over the breath, I still carry that into even my pop style of singing as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I totally understand what you mean, and I have a hard time explaining that to other people when they ask me like because I'm a drummer, as you know,
Yeah.
and other people are like, asking me like, how do you do that solo? Where did you get it from? Actually, I didn't like go on YouTube, find this awesome drummer, and learn from him or copied him. I actually got it from my classical years, building up
Yeah.
the yeah. So I totally understand. It's just that I feel your pain. I know what it's like to not explain the process
Yeah.
easily to other
Yeah.
people. It's not something that just it 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 takes a while for you to go through your years and then suddenly have that epiphany. Oh, actually, I can put these both and two together.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah,
Yeah. That is also something that I'm learning, that we shouldn't fight over. Like to be purely classical, that you have to be purely contemporary, or like you have to be completely pop style of singing or commercial style of singing, or even like a jazz player, you have to be completely jazz. We It's all music regardless. So what you take from it is the whole whatever you can take from that, you can learn from each other, because even in my singing I learn from each other. Actually, I grew up listening to pop. I grew up being a pop singer at first, so I sang, and I will always love you, and all that. I come from that kind of era of like loving music, that kind of pop style of singing. But somehow when I grew up, when I went into I knew I had work to be done. I knew I was still lacking something, but I don't know what was it. But I cannot find that in a lot of pop style methods. Okay, so I tend to, maybe I should just go to a foundation, to go to a vocal teacher, and then maybe have formal training, and that was classical training as well at SEGI, and that was with my tutor, Terrence Au at that time, and until today still. So from there, I learned that, oh my god, there is still so much for me to learn. And with classical voice training, it really drills you with the proper technical
foundation.
demands,
Mm.
foundation and requirement that you really need to be able to sing effortlessly. Because you have to understand, being able to sing good is all about singing with ease, singing
Yeah.
effortlessly. Yeah, I think it's also similar with drums. You can't tense up, you can't yeah, be
And
straight. I mean, you do contract the muscles. There are some muscles that you need to contract, but you need to train it in a way that it somehow there's a balance of ease to it, ease and also effort to it.
I
So
think the
that's
easiest
where,
Yeah, sorry. I think the easiest one for me, to all you listeners out there, if you don't know, actually, Mr. Leonard Yap from RTM
mm,
actually teaches in UPM, and he teaches jazz classes. And yeah, I agree with you. Like, he told me the same thing. Actually, the challenge is not to play every kind of diploma, ACTL, or grade 8
mm-hmm,
piece to perfection for like one style or one genre or whatever. Actually, the challenge is just for him. He's a pianist, right? He just looks at something, makes minimal mistakes, but doesn't show that he sweats at the score.
yeah,
That's
exactly,
and for me, he told me that since like 3 years ago, and I've been learning about it since my diploma years, and I realized, yeah, that's the peak of performance. That's my peak of performance level where you
mm-hmm,
don't even
exactly,
think about it. It's not easy. I'm very sure even some people that they've been in this industry 20, 30 years, they still have
yeah.
new songs to learn, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure by the time we're 50, I'm still finding new pieces for me to sing as well, new repertoires for me to, something new to learn,
Yeah, because
you know,
music
even until
never,
now.
you know,
Exactly.
people
Yeah,
never
exactly.
stop making. I mean, it would be scary to live in a world that people
Yeah.
stops making new songs. But
Yeah, so there's always something that you can learn, lah, I guess. So for classical, that's what I learned about the foundation and everything. But bounce back to the pop side of it, you know, people call it the popular music and commercial music, whatever, right? And
mm-hmm.
even jazz singing, to be honest. What I learned was the understanding of sound. I started understanding why, and this is not to say that some audience are better than others. It's just a matter of taste. The reason why some people are not so drawn into classical singing and some people are a bit just more naturally drawn. Some people are just more drawn towards the pop way of singing. The difference is that it's all a matter of position, but you have to understand the reason behind why we do the different positions is only because of amplification. With classical, without amplification, you cannot place the voice so up into your larynx because you're gonna damage it. And by the time if you damage it so much, by the end of the song you're not gonna have a voice or something. But if you sing it for like another half an hour later, right, you're not gonna have a voice because you're grinding away at your larynx. You're making the vocal cords grind away at the larynx so high up. This is something a bit too technical, so
Don't worry about
sorry.
it.
So yeah, so you place the voice a bit behind, and then you amplify that using your voice. I wouldn't demonstrate because it's gonna explode. Okay, but just think of like we have to use our body to amplify. So the sound that comes from that method of amplification, it will sound definitely a bit more muffled. Some people would like call it muffled, a bit more sound, you know, like sound, like
Mm-hmm.
that the opera, you know, like the go-to opera person sound, you know, so that. But with so that to some in our generation now, in our era right now, they are not used to that because it's a classical, it's a different style of singing. They are not used to that. They find that a bit, why does it sound? To some, they might think that it sounds very choking wise.
Yeah.
You know, it
Yeah.
sounds as if yeah, like that. They cannot accept that kind of color. So the more prevalent that we always hear is after the turn of the we have the evolvement of recording, you know, in from I'm not sure what year was it, but it was like after the turn of the 20th century, right?
Yeah.
Recording started to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So with recording started to happen, it came out the bloom of doing record on tracks. So when you do record on tracks, you didn't have to amplify as much. All you had to do was go up to the microphone, and all you had to do is sing, "L is for the way you look at me, O is for the," and then that's it. You have to do it. You just need to go up to the front, and it can pick up. So you don't need to blast your way through. Um, and with that, you don't need to blast your way through because if you do, you're gonna get distortion of the mic. Right, you're gonna get that maximum clip on at the ceiling kind of thing, right? So yeah, so you didn't have to amplify as much and pop singing, right? So it came from there. So you didn't have to amplify so much. So what happens is the way you place the voice is more upfront. So it's to me, it sounds just more speech-like, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just here. It's right how the way you speak, and then you just carry the voice on top of it. You don't have to push as much effort into classical singing, and then you just have a more people say as like a more natural sound to it. Yeah. So I guess it translates to what they find as a bit more familiar to our talking voice, you know?
Yeah.
Because I'm just going like this, I'm talking, and then I just place the first, and then already I'm just adding on the breath to that, and then already I'm singing just on
In
that.
every sense
Yeah.
of the word, you have started singing.
Yes, I've
Yeah.
started singing, yeah, without having to do so much effort that it would
Mm-hmm.
have to amplify such a big audience. So that's the only reason. So that's what I learned, and I learned to understand that, and I learned to respect that within the context of like pop singing, within pop context of commercial singing, why it is stylistically more appropriate to sing in that way. Yeah, so I try to manage and then try to be flexible about it and try to keep an open mind to the different kinds of style of singing that I'm able to do in order to really understand why certain type of performances people like and certain type of performances people don't like. Yeah.
And I assume it took you quite a while, even till now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
even to now, I'm still learning about some things about like that. But it was until now that I'm like sure, oh, okay, this is why this has happened. I didn't realize that a long time ago. It was up until when I did a lot more live performances that I'm able to realize about all this. Yeah.
yeah. But the sad thing about that is it's normal in every field, even in especially in research field. Whatever you know now, in 5 years, it becomes obsolete. So then
Yeah,
you have
exactly.
to go through this new paradigm shift in another 5 years, which I know you'll
Yeah,
still be
exactly.
performing. So don't worry about it. So actually, I wanted to ask. This leads me to my next question. In light of all these learning experiences and from all your performances, uh, all these new things you pick up, do what do you pick up nowadays? Now that you have seem to have a lack of performance.
Oh my God, what do I pick up? Pick up trash a lot. No lah, I'm kidding. No, one thing, maybe this is just not as a vocalist, but as a musician, just in general. Um, Whenever we study, I guess, in our
Feel.
degree life, right? I'm always the kind of person that I like to keep one foot forward, even in anything that I do. So I've always been the kind of person that if I were to do degree, I'm already planning for my masters actually. Even
Mm-hmm.
now, already, I'm already planning for my masters. I'm already planning where I want to go. And with my singing also, even with my technicality, right, with my singing, whatever I'm already doing now, I'm already planning the different kinds of repertoires that I want to do, the different kind of techniques that I want to do, the different kinds of things that is able to help me in my singing to get better. Even until now, I'm already like starting to learn overtone singing actually.
Mm-hmm.
Who the like that it's like so random, but it does actually help. Yeah, this kind of thing when you actually look into it and then really look into the kind all this thing, you can learn something for it. I've always been that kind of person, and from what I've learned is that being in degree, you always need to keep an open mind of other things that you can learn that is not offered by the degree
Yeah.
program here.
Yeah.
Like for example, even until now, I'm actually studying a lot about music recording contracts, actually,
Uh huh.
and distribution deals, and also music business management. Even though we do have a course, but a lot of the accounting side doesn't come into play, actually.
Yeah.
So we don't really get drilled into royalties. I'm not sure about whether we do it in third year, fourth year, but so far right now we don't do it so much in royalties and all that distribution deals, recording contracts and all that, dealing with lawyers and all that. So I just have that thought about my mind. It's like, okay, you know what? If it's not really something that is what we are exposed to at our degree life at our department, so why don't I just do that on my own since I have a lot of free time also? So I bought books on music business. I've bought did some research on decision deals, on royalties, and also on contracts, music contracts, and all
Yeah.
that. Because I find that I should know all this if I were to become a musician, and that is something that we all can learn lah, to be a business, especially if you're going to be a person that's going to manage your own career as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
I hope that answers.
That does. And funny thing is that there is a podcast on Spotify, an ABC podcast, Music
Mm.
Basics, and he actually talks about, like, so this guy used to be a performer in UK like 20 years ago, and now and then he stumbled into music publishing, and then now he finds
Yeah.
himself like in the heart of the business slash music publishing slash distribution field, which he didn't even plan to go. He didn't like wake up one day,
Mm.
graduate, and then just said, I'm gonna be a publisher. Because it's crazy. If I ever meet a 9-year-old, 7-year-old kid who comes into my drum class, and I ask him like, why do you want to learn drum? Oh, I want to distribute music. No, you're in the
Yeah,
wrong
that
class,
wouldn't be
buddy.
the first thing that they would. I know, right?
That's awesome. So, if you were to weigh it like between your let's put it on like both hands, right? Like performance, all your you were learning overtones and all your different languages, and at the same time all your music business, your recording, your publishing, would it be 50-50, 80-20, or
No,
no?
I think I already have like a priority list. At first, number one, I'm a musician. That's okay. I'm a musician first, number one, and I'm a vocalist second, because I think that's the priority that I should put myself at first. I'm a vocalist second, and then whatever comes, I'm a pianist third. Okay, for a lot of people who don't know, I actually play a lot of piano also, classical also lah as well, Beethoven and all that.
For all you
Pianist
listeners,
third,
this man
and
actually accompanies himself in secret. You can just like wander in the hall and think, oh, that's one person on the piano, another person singing. No, it's just him.
yeah.
Keep going.
So yeah,
Uh-huh.
and then third as a pianist, and then after that, number fourth, I'm trying to really um, look into some of the business aspects of music. So business music management, that's number fourth lah of what I'm trying to achieve. So yeah, so maybe that's around like maybe like 20%, 30% of it lah. Still a big chunk though. Okay, maybe 20% lah. So whatever time I have left from not singing opera arias, from not playing Beethoven sonatas, you know, then you find me reading about music business. Yeah.
And I think even that reading part, even that all those business part is still quite important. But one thing that I have a challenge for is actually trying to tell people about this. Tell people
Yeah.
about it. It's not just because I meet some people and they say like I ask them like, what do you want? What do you want to do? Or why are you here? Why are you doing your music degree? Oh, I sing in high school. So what's your plan? Oh, I don't know. Just continue singing after degree. And I say, it's not a bad thing, but I want to tell them. I want to pass this message on. So what would you say if you were in my shoes? What would you tell them? Like, don't sing. That's not a good message.
What would I tell them? I think that's a very good question. I guess it comes also because some people just have a different perception of things. Like they don't have as much urgency, and that's not their fault also. Yeah, it's by no means anybody's fault. It's just how some people are. And but what I would tell them and urge them to really think about it, because being in the position right now, as a musician, I feel that music is difficult. Let's just say that, bluntly, like music is difficult. It's really difficult. If you think it's difficult, okay, then times 20. That's how difficult it is. And don't underestimate how difficult it is to really do music, to hone your craft. And also at the same time, you have to think about putting bread on the table, to
Yeah.
earn a living as well. Yeah, that's
A
also a
realistical.
whole another difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A
that is something that we really realistically have to face. And if you're gonna be in music, I need you to really look into this and then really think to yourself, are you prepared to do this? Are you ready to do this? Really, I'm gonna look them. I have to look them dead set in the eye. They also have to look in the mirror dead set in the eye, knowing that, are you really willing to do that? To really just drive through mud, through God knows what kind of difficulty. And for me, when I grew up, I was very dead set sure, because for me it was more like there was no option left. This is it. I'm just gonna do this. I
It's
was
make or
really dead
break.
set sure when I
Yeah.
was. Yeah, it's really make or break, and I was that kind of person also even in high school. I say, you know what, this, and it's because also of the experience that I had. So when I was in high school, I attended choir for the first time. That was my first ever exposure to music, like first ever. I was in choir, and the first thing that I heard was like this magical ambience. I could only describe it as that at that time. That I was walking through the corridor, I'm like, oh my god, why do I feel like I'm being transported somewhere? And I feel this surreal moment of like ambience, like enveloping this one
Transcendence.
classroom. Yeah, that's transcendence, like enveloping this one auditorium. And then I thought like, oh my god, this is so interesting. I didn't know what it was, you know. I didn't know what it was, and I entered the auditorium, and I said, "What is this?" Because we were having Coca-Cola basically. It was
Yeah.
club day, and I entered. It's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Oh, this is choir." Oh, so what you guys do here? We all sing together, and I was just so captivated by the sound that I was in, and only then that I understood it was actually harmony. It was also resonance, and also having that reverb sound also bouncing back to you. That having that whole moment. It was at that moment. It was like a smack from God. You know, it was like stamped to the face, and like, "Pop, you're a musician." That's it. Uh, so that God sent, that God message or something that came to me, that epiphany that came,
Mm-hmm.
I was very dead set sure, and from then on, I never gave up, and I just hold on to dear to that.
Yeah.
And I think with being musician, really, you really have to have that sense of urgency and passion to really be able to do music. You know, you should have that, because of the fact that it is not easy. It is so easy for anybody to give up actually from doing music. It is so easy. And so with that in mind, if you have the drive and passion to really stick to it, then it should be no problem for you.
That
Yeah.
that's a very good advice, and I think I also have that problem where people say, "Oh, music is easy." I won't respond as, "Oh, no, 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 English is easier," or other things are easier. No, for me
Yeah.
personally, how I would tell people is when they say, "Oh, you're doing music, this must be so easy." Honestly, there's no course. There's no one. I know somebody who's in a linguistics faculty, like a few people, and it's not even just because it's their language, their main language, their mother tongue. That doesn't mean, oh,
Yeah.
it's nothing, because you're not just
Mm.
doing it as a hobby or a passion
Yeah.
anymore. It's work. It's actual work, and
Yeah, it's work.
yeah. And like you said, it's not
Exactly.
just you want to do this a few weeks or a few months. I just
Mm.
want to do this for a year and see how. No, if you want to commit, like how you did from your high school to your diploma like
Yeah.
2 years, 3 years, and your degree like
3 years. Yeah.
4 years. It's like close to a decade of,
Yeah.
you can't use a whole decade and ask and say, oh, you know what, I'm not cut out for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so thank you so much for all your thoughts, all your opinions. I'll be sure to let you know if any of the listeners have any questions. Maybe I'll direct them to you. Maybe I'll get you on this podcast again for a future episode. Yeah.
Sure, no problem. Whatever questions you have about singing, technical wise,
Yeah.
on vocal pedagogy, or some aspect of very small aspects of vocal science, I can, yeah, share it with them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, buddy.
And no, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here in this podcast. I was so excited to be here. I was like, oh my god, it's my first time doing it. Really excited actually. It really, thank you so much for starting this podcast. Thank you so much for allowing a platform like this. You know, you're providing platform for people to come and then have discussions on music. I think that we should have. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that actually means a lot. And again, I don't know if I actually passed this message on in the introduction episode of this podcast. It's not meant for monetization purposes. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
meaning to make money out of this. I'm not meaning to. It's more for letting the people know. Things like you said, opening your mind, knowing what to do, publishing. Like really, it's rare to hear people say, "Oh, I'm actually reading up books on music publishing." Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you must be like really free. Your parents must be really rich for you to sit down and do nothing and read music publishing books. No, that was a joke. But yeah, it's actually
Okay.
an actual drive. It's actually an actual uh, possible future that some people.
Yeah.
Well, let me rephrase that. It's an actual future that a lot of people would never think about it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
sad. Either it's it's sad when they don't think about it or they don't think of it as a good future. It's even worse when people think, oh, that you couldn't be a performer, so you had to do that. It's of a lower
Mm.
level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a whole nother episode right there.
Yeah, yeah. That's what we're trying to work towards. So again, thank you so much. See you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for inviting me, and bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions at all regarding about music or vocal performances, you can send an email to me at aminbob13, and the email is also available in the description of this podcast. Shoot me an email. I'll either answer it personally or I'll get Haziq or any future guest that is related to the question to answer it, and I'll put it on the future episode. Thank you so much.